Hello everyone, I'm Melanie with the Lansing Journal, sitting here with Josh Bootsma, our managing editor.
Hello.
It is May of 2024 and we want to provide what we think will be a helpful chronology of the Tiffany Henyard timeline.
Yes, specifically Thornton Township timeline of when she became supervisor of Thornton Township to where we're at now.
Right. We think this will be helpful.
Yeah.
It's been helpful for us to review it. We
Absolutely.
became aware of things that we weren't originally, so stick with us through this video. We're going to start at the beginning, which is not where most people think it is. The story actually begins on January 3 of 2022,
Right.
which is the day that then Supervisor Frank Zuccarelli passed away unexpectedly.
Yes, we were notified of that on that day, and we were able to talk to folks in the know and publish a story about that on the same day. He had been truly a real figure in the South Suburbs for a very long time.
Right. And that is a significant part of the story because that set in motion everything that happened afterward.
Right.
Because the supervisor passed away, an appointment had to be made to fill his remaining term.
Right.
So it was up to the trustees at that time to meet and put forth candidates and arrive at a decision about who would fill Supervisor Zuccarelli's term.
That's right. That brings us to our next story, Melanie, published on March 1, 2022. Headline, Confusion Marks the Attempted Appointment of Zuccarelli Replacement. This is a story that you wrote.
Yeah, I was at this meeting, and this was, I think, the 5th or 6th meeting that the trustees had gone through since Frank's passing, and they still had not managed to come up with a recommended replacement that they could all agree on.
Yeah.
And there is a deadline for this.
Yeah.
I think they had 60 days, and they were aware of this deadline, and still things went right up to the deadline.
That's right.
So on March 1, they tried again to put forth nominations and agree, and the whole meeting was very confusing and nothing came out of it. The next meeting happened on March 3.
That's right.
48 hours notice is required whenever you have a public meeting, and so the meeting couldn't start until I think 10:30 or 10:55 in order to fulfill that 48-hour requirement and still accomplish the goal of appointing a supervisor before the midnight deadline.
On March 3. So yes, that started at 10:55. They had exactly an hour and 5 minutes to appoint a new supervisor, because if they didn't, it would go to the larger township public at large would vote for who they wanted to be the next supervisor.
And it was chaos.
Yeah.
And out of that, finally, the 9th person nominated was Tiffany Henyard.
11:48 p.m. Trustee Gonzalez nominated Tiffany Henyard, and we have that video. I believe we are the only video that's been published by the media of that moment, and we'll show it to you.
11:49. So what was the vote? 11:49. I nominate Tiffany Henyard, Thornton Township Supervisor.
You're making a mockery out of this one here. This is not a joke. Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yes.
Trustee Gray Everett?
Yes.
Trustee
That's right, right? Hold down, man.
She voted yes. And she has to sign the warrant, and then she's got to take the oath in 9 minutes.
Let's go.
9 minutes.
I didn't see that coming.
Whatever happened, it happened. But don't
Where'd I come from? I'm still shaking. Yeah, I am.
And And not only that, but I was able to ask the newly appointed Supervisor Henyard, and she'd just been sworn in, and I asked, can I ask you a couple questions?
Josh
So I
got the interview.
Stood there with my camera, and she answered some of my questions. She was very excited.
You've been voted the Thornton Township Supervisor. How do you feel right now?
Oh man, I'm overjoyed. Didn't see it coming. I love it. That means that I am truly blessed and everyone loves me. I love them. Thank you.
It seemed like a surprise to everyone in the room, a surprise to you as well?
Yes.
Okay.
See, I'm still trembling. Yes.
Some people, especially on YouTube and other commenters are sort of blaming the people for electing Tiffany Henyard. And I want to point out that it was not the people who elected her. It was this process put in place, and it was the trustees who eventually elected Tiffany or appointed Tiffany to fulfill Frank's role.
That's correct.
And that's the way the system is set up. The trustees did not want it to go to the people.
Correct.
For whatever reason. But yeah, don't blame the people.
Right. The Tiffany Henyard has never been elected as the supervisor of Thornton Township. She was appointed to that position by the process.
We attended her first meeting that she led, the Thornton Township Board, and we reported on that.
At that first board meeting, you were there, you wrote the story out of it. One thing, there are just some quotes that, given what has happened in the last 2.5 years, that really stand out from early on. So I'm going to read one of those quotes. This is Supervisor Henyard. I pledge to the residents of Thornton Township, the elected officials, the Board of Trustees, and the entire staff that we will work hard and have an honest and responsible fiscal year. I will always keep the people first. I was known as the people's trustee, now I'm the people's mayor, and even now I am the people's supervisor. So thank you again. So we fast forward to the second meeting with Supervisor Henyard as the township supervisor, and the notable thing about that meeting, among a few other things, that she fired 2 people. One was in the Human Resources Department, and one was that was Jessica Jones in the Human Resources Department, and the other was Stephanie Wiedemann, who was the former executive assistant to Frank Zuccarelli. Stephanie had been part of the township for a very, very long time, and was seen, according to Stephanie, was seen by Tiffany Henyard as a critic, as asking too many questions. And there was just a lot of confusion and uncertainty about, wow, why are we fired? The communication was unclear. So early on, there were already some red flags.
That was at meeting number 2.
Correct.
That Supervisor Henyard led.
Right.
Yeah, so the Lansing Journal continued showing up. We went to the annual meeting that year of Thornton Township. We reported on that. We went to township board meetings, reported on the bills that were being discussed, financial decisions that were being made. Just trying to be present, just trying to observe and report.
Right. There was one particular issue with the previous administration had gone to this place called Eaglewood Resort and Spa and had a large bill for that occasion, and we can't speak to that at all.
What they did there.
But it is worth noting that the trustees brought that up. Supervisor Henyard spoke out against that choice for the staff to spend taxpayer dollars, and we quoted her, and I want to read that right now, which in hindsight is an interesting quote from Supervisor Henyard. She said, "I'm totally for a retreat, but I'm not for using taxpayer dollars to do personal things such as spas. Some members here use the money to do spas for their employees. We do not know anything about anyone using taxpayer dollars for spas. That's a big no-no, a big red flag, and that will not be condoned under my watch as your supervisor." So she's on the record as pretty explicitly calling out the fact that we're not going to be using taxpayer dollars for any sort of personal experience.
Good to know.
Yep.
Yeah, and so then we shared a few stories just about sort of ordinary township business. We wanted to cover the township in the same way that we cover our village, show up at meetings and just report what happens. So several of our stories over the next few weeks were pretty ordinary.
Yeah.
Days in the park.
Yeah.
We'd let people know when upcoming events were happening.
Right.
Quentin Arthur was our reporter at that time. He was going to the Thornton Township meetings and just letting people know what decisions were being made and what events were being planned.
That's right. So we were not always there. I mean, sometimes there was drama happening and sometimes there was not. And we were there either way.
Either way.
Because we wanted to be there to report on it. So that brings us to September 29, 2022. We published a story about a Thornton Township Board meeting during which tensions ran high, and I don't really need to say too much about this, Melanie. You can read the story that we'll link to below. I'll let the video kind of speak for itself.
Out of order. Stop. Who are you? This is public comment.
Who are you?
You will be escorted out if y'all want to keep disrupting the meeting. This is public comment. Please stop.
It is now time for Ms. Shamika Atkins to speak, please. Ms. Atkins waited patiently for everyone else to speak. Please let her speak, please.
So all of that happened in 2022. It was 2023 when the first mental health referendum was announced to appear on the ballot.
That's right.
Quentin Arthur was at that meeting and he reported on that.
That's right. And we're going to get, it later appeared again in 2024. We're going to summarize all that a little bit later on in this video to kind of keep it all condensed into one topic. All right, on April 13 of 2023, we published a story about the Thornton Township annual meeting, and those are usually pretty big meetings, and people have elector cards that they can raise to, approve the bills and things. And I won't get into the details of how the annual meetings run, but something that was notable about this annual meeting is that there was the first time in my memory that some larger broadcast media was present. Ted Slowick from the Daily Southtown had been a consistent presence at Dalton meetings and Thornton Township meetings. Dane Placco of Fox 32, as well as some Better Government Association reporters, approached her after the meeting. She spoke for just a little bit and quickly kind of skirted around the reporters and made her way upstairs, and we have video of that.
Hey, Keith! Stay right there. Don't move. Don't leave, right? Yeah, don't move. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
So those same reporters from the Better Government Association and Fox 32 wrote a story about the Springfield, what they called a Springfield Joyride in their headline, and the big spending that accompanied it. And because the Better Government Association has the copyright agreement or something, we were able to republish their story. They encouraged us to do so, actually. And so we got some really good, kind of a deep dive from the Better Government Association in collaboration with Fox 32. And you can read that full thing below.
Another elected official in Thornton Township is the assessor, who currently is Cassandra Elston. She's an elected official. She's elected by the people. She works in the same office with Tiffany Henyard, another elected official. And so it was surprising for us to learn that that Supervisor Henyard had locked Assessor Elston out of her office at the Thornton Township headquarters building.
You can do anything you want to pretty much say or do to me, it's okay. But when you come between me and the taxpayers and the job that they voted me in to do, I have a problem with that.
So what we know, what happened yesterday, according to the Fox 32 report and talking with Cassandra Elston, is that when she arrived at her office yesterday, her specific office was locked.
Still can't get in. So my office door is still locked.
And that Commons table in the area is not the place for all of those filled out forms.
We have confidential, sensitive papers that were in a common area.
This morning, some of those documents were gone.
Did anyone move any of this?
We didn't touch anything.
Okay, so this was moved yesterday. There were stacks here, so someone's gone through it.
And then, Josh, you were at the follow-up meeting where the Thornton Township Board actually voted to declare Assessor Elston absent from her duties.
Right, so I was at that meeting and that was a topic of discussion. That was the phrase, to vote her absent from her duties, which kind of seemed pretty ridiculous to a lot of people present at that meeting. So it was very confusing. And here's Keith Freeman, who's a high-ranking official in Thornton Township. Here's his version from the township perspective of what happened.
So to set this record straight, Supervisor Henyard in no way removed the assessor from her office. The the assessor has access to the assessor's office, which is located on this side of the building. She has a key fob that gets her in her office. Her office was relocated to an area so that we can take care of some business in her office area. She did not call and ask us why she was being relocated. She did not call and ask us any information about that. There were no files left out. All of the files were locked up. Whoever took the files out, left them on the tables for the media, and whatever that interview was, that's completely false.
So you didn't receive any emails or calls from the assessor?
I didn't receive anything from the assessor questioning whether or not
Any call?
No,
What, say the past 2 weeks?
No, I hadn't received. I haven't spoken.
No call, no emails.
I have not spoken to the assessor at all.
Well, that's not what I'm asking. Did you receive any emails or
Okay,
calls?
he answered the question. We're not
No,
gonna
not
go
the
there.
specific
We're not-
question. No,
You're
you're not.
done. Thank you.
No, I still have questions.
You can ask. Go
Okay,
ahead.
well,
But he
he's not answering them then? Okay,
He
so.
answered it.
Did
You're
you
not gonna go
receive
back
any
and
calls
forth.
or emails?
I have not.
Part of that same video clip of that explanation is a bit about Tiffany Henyard criticizing the media for not covering Thornton Township correctly, specifically saying we only come for the bad stuff and not for the good stuff. We'll show you that.
And news, stop writing about me and y'all ain't got y'all facts. Y'all wrote that I removed her from office and I did no such thing. I did not lock her out of no office. I don't even have a dispute with that lady. So I wish people stop lying on my name. And I hope y'all write that. That's for your record when you do write this article about me. Because you only come here for the mess. You guys do not come here for anything positive that has been done in this township, such as we got a whole surplus when there's always been a deficit here in the township. Y'all didn't write that, right? And then when y'all want to know the truth about the township, y'all come bring my line about the theft that's going on at the township before I became the supervisor. But y'all not writing about none of that stuff. So stop. Keith, you got the floor.
8 days after she made that critique of the Lansing Journal, Quentin Arthur, who is our township report at the time, published a story about 70 student scholarships being awarded by Thornton Township, and he kind of detailed some of what those scholarships were about. And just Tiffany Henyard has continued to come back to this theme of the media doesn't cover Thornton Township fairly or not cover the good things. And as we kind of said before, our goal is to just cover the township,
Right.
not cover the good or the bad. We're there to cover what is newsworthy.
It's just information.
In Thornton Township. And I think this Quentin story about the scholarships is a good example of us doing that. So the mid-August meeting of the Thornton Township Board was unique in that this was the first time that I know that the public was actually denied entrance to witness the meeting. I was allowed to come in because I was a member of the media. There were some other folks on the inside of the boardroom. A lot of them were involved with the township. And so I very much felt like I was the only one on the outside group. I'll quote a couple things that she said here. I reported that at least 15 times during the 33-minute board meeting she alluded to being unfairly written about. She said, I would appreciate if people stop writing negative stuff about the township and write about all the good that we do here in the township. We made that point earlier. She later added, write the stuff that's the truth, not the mess and the gossip. She also said, God don't make no mistakes. He put the right person here that he knew was going to do the work and take the lashes and bear the strength to keep going and doing it all. He put the right person here. So that's among many comments that she had.
So that August story was our last story of 2023, and we didn't publish a lot of Thornton Township news between then and January, and there were a couple of reasons for that. For one, many of those meetings were canceled. Or rescheduled at the last minute.
Sure.
And we couldn't always make it to the rescheduled meeting. And it was just difficult to get communication from Thornton Township and to cover them consistently.
Right.
Also, our reporter who was assigned to Thornton Township, Quentin Arthur, at that time signed up for classes, wanted to continue his education, so he became less available for that kind of coverage, so that affected our ability as well. So in January of 2024, we decided to explain that and explain why we hadn't been covering Thornton Township. So that was one of our weekly videos.
Right, and we titled that, Let's Talk About Thornton Township. Another part of that post that we put together was some clips that you took at a township talk.
Yeah, township talks are not official government meetings, public meetings. They are more of a marketing meeting that the township puts on so that Thornton Township residents can come and ask questions and meet
Learn about
the
what's going
different,
on.
meet different personnel. So I went to one and shot some video, and a lot of interesting things were said.
I understand why we can't help each other, why we can't put our heads together and help one another, why we can't band together at this time, at this moment. This is going to be Black History Month, right? Y'all all say Martin Luther King had a dream, but guess what? I am the dream. So now I need you guys to stand with me and help me grow our dream. That's what I need.
A lot of strange things were happening in early 2024.
That's right. On February the 13th, I came to the Thornton Township Hall expecting to report on a board meeting, and I was told by a security guard that I was, along with everyone else who was there from the public, a handful of people had to go downstairs. And when I went downstairs, there was no audio feed, and there was a very faint audio at one point that lasted maybe for 30 seconds. You couldn't really hear much. And before we even knew it, the people downstairs, the meeting had ended. It was apparently a 4-minute meeting, and it was, for all intents and purposes, it was inaccessible to the public. The public and the media were denied access.
So you guys were kept in the cellar.
Correct.
While this short little meeting happened.
That is correct.
And nobody knows exactly what happened at that meeting.
Right, and talking with Trustee Gonzalez afterwards, he told me it was pretty basic, the approval of the bills. There wasn't really anything that required discussion, and so in 4 minutes they were in and out. But definitely not a good look for, required by law to have an open meeting accessible. In COVID times, there were some accommodations for if you wanted to hold a meeting, and it was live streamed downstairs or something, but that has expired because the emergency order has expired for the COVID pandemic. And not only that, but public comment required by law. People need to be able to comment. Public needs to be able to comment, and that was inaccessible for the members of the public that were there. We asked one of our freelance reporters, Kenise Jordan, who is great, to attend a Thornton Township Black History Month celebration.
A public event.
Not a politically oriented event, as far as we knew. And she had a tough experience getting in there. In fact, she was denied access to that because she was a member of the media. She was told that she needed to sign a non-disclosure agreement, that she, a member of the media whose job it is to report, could not disclose what it was that she saw going on at this Black History Month celebration. So she called me after she got back to the car, and we talked about what she'd experienced, and I said, I think this is a story in itself. And we published that story on February 26, 2024. Just a really kind of bald-faced example of Supervisor Henyard's promise of come to the good things. There's so much good going on that we want to tell you about. When we show up to report on it, we were denied access.
So that's what happened to our reporter, and then at the next meeting that you attended, we heard this.
Because y'all don't want to do the research. Y'all keep listening to people and no one's showing you fact. They keep telling you fiction, fake story, fake news, like for real, stop. But go check, guys, if you really want to know the truth so you can understand what it is that we're fighting over. I'm basically fighting against the devil, the evil spirits. I'm the good spirit, they the evil spirit, because I never see nobody try to tear down people this much.
We did have a chance to talk to Thornton Township Trustee Gonzalez. He's been the only one of the administration willing to speak with us and other media. He's the one who actually nominated Tiffany Henyard to the position, which led to her getting appointed.
Right.
And just wanted to get his take on that. So we asked him about it.
Put us in Chris Gonzalez's mind, 12 minutes before midnight. What was your thinking in nominating her after this long process?
Just as a whole, I just felt that I was hoping we could get somebody that was a little bit younger for the role. I felt it was time that we, may possibly, and I wasn't like honed in on that, but a woman. I just thought that would be somebody, that was a little bit younger, a woman. So that's kind of where I was. I'll be honest, I really didn't know at that time a whole lot of the, that there was already some controversy and things like that, a little bit that was going on in Dalton,
yeah.
say.
Sure.
So I didn't really know about that. And that was also something that, obviously there, just on the surface, there was a little bit of experience there. She had been a trustee, just became mayor. Kind of a town that you might have had as a base as far as just like, once again, coming from that there might be some experience and things like that there. Yeah. She went straight to Frank's office and, sat in the chair and she just kept basically yelling, what are they going to think now? What are they going to say now? Speaking of the Dalton trustees, because I guess, like I said, there was already a rift and I didn't know that. So I'm thinking I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? And then so I went to Keith on the side and I said, what is she talking about? I said, is the board against her in Dalton? And he said, yeah. And I said, who? He's like, everybody. And he was like proud of it. And at that time, I already was like, what did I do?
If you haven't seen that full video with Chris Gonzalez, there's a lot of interesting stuff in there that we definitely recommend that you watch. One of the other topics that we talked to him about in that video was at the time of shooting it, there was an upcoming mental health referendum that we had asked him his opinion on.
Right, this was the same referendum essentially that had been on the ballot a year earlier, and here it was being brought back again.
And specifically, the township levy an annual tax not to exceed 0.15% for purposes of providing community mental health facilities and services. So that was voted down in 2023 with 51.24% voting against and 48.76% voting for.
Close.
Very close. This year, however, it was much more decisive. It was 61.84% voting against and 38.16% voting for. Both times, local mayors and legislators attached their names and signed a letter of non-support saying that they didn't believe that Lansing's mayor was one of them, Mayor Patty Idem, and a lot of other mayors in the township, saying they didn't believe this was the best way to invest or prioritize mental health support. One of the things that was new in this letter in 2024 was this paragraph here. We wish to avoid placing further hardship on homeowners, but we also believe, given recent news media and law enforcement inquiries regarding possible misappropriation of taxpayer dollars, that to request more of township taxpayers' hard-earned money is at best ill-advised.
Yeah, so the referendum did get voted down, and here was Supervisor Henyard's response to that.
And as it relates to the referendum question, the thing that the gentleman spoke about, it's a shame that people are so brainwashed, hoodwinked, and led astray that they will sit here and say, oh, I'm glad we voted down. That's a shame. I feel bad for you.
That all happened in March, and then in April is the annual meeting of Thornton Township, and Josh and I were both there, as was the Homewood Flossmoor Chronicle and several other media members.
Yep.
One of the things that was significant about this year's annual meeting was the power dynamic between the elected officials, specifically Supervisor Henyard, the appointed official, and the people of Thornton Township. People came out to that meeting and people spoke during public comment. People asked questions. People came as prepared as they could, although information was hard to get.
Right.
But they were there because they wanted to participate in government. So they were pushing back against Supervisor Henyard. She was pushing back against them. I was proud of the community and the way they showed up and the way they spoke up. So it seemed like nothing was happening. And then finally things started to happen.
In just the last month, we've definitely seen some movement. So on mid-April, we published about Thornton Township official Keith Freeman indicted for bankruptcy fraud. There's an 11-page indictment, which you can read in the article linked below. There's definitely, according to the lawsuit, which admittedly, that's one side of the story, there's a lot of fraud that's been happening with Keith Freeman with regard to his different organizations and lying about his income and saying that he wasn't getting a paycheck from someone and, moving money to a different bank account and not revealing that when he declared for bankruptcy. A lot of different stuff tied up in it.
Shady
stuff, yeah. Second example of that is just recently on May 12, we posted about federal subpoenas of Thornton Township focus on Tiffany Henyard. And you can read those full documents that's linked in our story. It's really a slew of documents. And so with the subpoena, on May 20th, a custodian of records from Thornton Township is required by law to come downtown to the federal courthouse and deliver these documents and also appear before the grand jury. Unfortunately, grand jury proceedings happen behind closed doors, so we won't be able to be there and document any of it. But this is a big deal, and a lot of these documents focus on a lot of the things that people have had questions on. Mm-hmm. The Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation, these people who are getting paychecks, and it's what exactly are they for? So this is the first step in like an investigation like this, saying we need all these documents to know what exactly we think any potential charges could be or something like that.
So the feds are involved now.
The feds are involved, big time.
So a lot of people are relieved to finally see some action being taken.
That's right.
So thank you for sticking with us through this whole summary. Even though it's a summary, it's been pretty long.
It sure has.
But yeah, it's a 2-year story. And one thing I want to leave our readers with is just the assurance that the Lansing Journal plans to be here even after all of this drama dies down. It is important that we are covering the sensational stuff, but we also want our community and the nation to know that that's not the whole story of our community. So thank you for watching and reading not just the sensational stuff. Thank you for reading the daily stories of life in our community and for supporting this local newspaper.
Absolutely. And thanks for watching today. We will see you for anything else that happens at the township, and we will see you next week.